finally finished reading another book, The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton, I guess is how you say it. This book is older. It was published in 2018, I think. And I had heard of it, but I had often gotten it confused with The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo or whatever that other book is. And so I didn't think I wanted to read this book because I couldn't remember which book was which. And then I found it at the library, read the flap, and thought, okay, I'll give it a go. It's the copy I have is about 430 pages long, and it is a dense book, and it took me a while to get through it. It was one of those books where when you're reading it, you're pretty intrigued, you're pretty entertained, but when you look at it sitting on your nightstand, you're just not feeling like picking it up because it feels a little bit like a chore. So let's talk about it. The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. That is a mouthful of a title, by the way. These long titles have got to stop, please. And I think it was originally called The Seven Deaths, but because of that Evelyn Hugo book, I think, at least for the American market, they changed the title. I'm not sure about that, but I think I read that somewhere. In any case, it is Clue meets Looper, I guess. It is a time loop story about a man named Aidan Bishop who must solve the mystery of the murder of Evelyn Hardcastle, and he has to keep reliving this one specific day, the day of her murder, until he can solve the case. He relives the day. He has 8 hosts, basically 8 different people at this house party where Evelyn is murdered. He will live the day through one of them each loop for 8 loops. And it's a very intriguing premise, right? Like, I like murder mysteries. This is set in, I want to say, the 1920s, and that was something that was a little bit confusing because it wasn't explicit. And for a long time, I thought that this was taking place before World War I, and then one of the later hosts of Aidan Bishop, who, by the way, cannot remember anything about himself as a person. His personal memories have been wiped, but in order to get those back and get to go be himself again, he has to solve this mystery. But anyway, one of his later hosts mentions having been in the war, which I'm going to assume was World War I, based on the kind of descriptions and behaviors. They're at this manor house called Blackheath, which is falling apart because it hasn't been well maintained over the years. But just based on the way people are dressed, and even just the cover of the book, which is very kind of Art Deco, I think. I always get that one and Art Nouveau mixed up. I think this is Art Deco. But in any case, the mentioning having served in the war together or something kind of made me go, oh wait, I have to revise my, because nobody's talking about this, the fact that there was a war. And so, to put a little bit of context, Evelyn's brother Thomas was murdered 19 years prior to this house party on the same day. Like, this is the anniversary of, and they're having a house party, and it's a little bit morbid to be having this house party on the anniversary of Evelyn's brother's death. Evelyn was 10 when her brother died, and now she's obviously 29. And so I'm like, okay, this war happened, I guess, somewhere in between these 19 years, but nobody's like seemingly been affected except to mention in passing that a couple of the young men who are about 26 or so, if I've done my math right. This was the kind of thing that made me stop in the middle of this book and go, hang on, let me do some math real quick. But I'm like, okay, so these guys were like 7-ish, and then I guess at some point in these 19 years, World War I happened. They were old enough to serve, but like it's not also clear how long ago this war was. I don't know. I was confused, and there's already a lot of confusing stuff going on in this book because it is this time loop murder mystery, and Aidan Bishop's trying to figure out who murdered Evelyn, and also like he's being pursued by an evil footman that it's unclear why this footman wants to stop him. I don't know. And then also like he has rivals, unnamed rivals, who are also time looping in different bodies at different times, so he's not sure who he can trust. And then there's this character Anna and this guy in a plague doctor like costume who's kind of coaching him through it but can't tell him a whole lot because of rules to this. And I'm not going to give anything away, but let's just say it was confusing. There are a lot of names, okay? And it's basically a puzzle box of a book. And it's clever, I think. I mean, some people didn't think so. I didn't love the resolution. I was just kind of like, all that for this? Okay, I guess. But also by about the last 100 pages, I was just impatient to be done and have the solution. Like, I get that each host gives Aidan information he needs to put the whole together, and but by the 6th or 7th host, I was like, can we just speed this up? Can we just get to the end? Because the other thing about this book is that it's very flowery in some of its language. It has some beautiful like metaphors and similes and stuff, and I write metaphorically a lot, so I can appreciate that. But and I guess too, for the time period, like the setting, this type of writing seems to suit, but it kind of also made the book longer, and maybe than it needed to be, with all these kind of descriptions and things that weren't as weren't necessary to solving the mystery. And by the time you're halfway or more through this book, you know what this house looks like. You know what the grounds look like. You don't need more description of the rain and the storm that comes in every time he lives this day again. We get it. Also, I feel like Aidan doesn't really know himself very well, and as he goes through the hosts, he's starting to even lose the little bit of himself that he has held on to. So the hosts get stronger, their natural personalities get stronger, and Aidan has a harder time overpowering their natural urges and behaviors and things, which is really good. But the book is not written in a way where there are distinct voices between Aidan and his hosts. I mean, he might sometimes say something and he'll be like, oh, that came off of my host's tongue. That's just something he normally says or whatever. But I would that flowery language, that descriptive language, which I guess is Aidan's natural POV, because this is first person. But I'm if his hosts are getting stronger, I would expect to hear their narrative voices more than Aidan's. And maybe we could have cut some of that descriptive stuff out if the hosts were less flowery in their thinking. If they're more men of action or logical people, they might not have had all of that floweriness. But in any case, I gave it a 4.2. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. It was good. And like I said, I can absolutely, give credit to the hard work of writing something this intricate. Like I said, it's like a puzzle box. There's like a lot of little pieces and you're trying to like take it apart and put it back together. And there's a lot of time. I mean, I'm just, as a writer, I'm like, God, this guy's notebook where he's like having to keep track of who's where at what time. I can't even imagine, right? Because I feel like that's a huge undertaking. So, you know, kudos for that. And yeah, it's a lot of work for the reader, assuming the reader wants to solve the mystery and doesn't just want the stuff to be fed to them till they get to the end. Like if the reader's wanting to, you know, anyway, I just, as a mystery person, I can't imagine reading a mystery and not trying to solve it as you're reading, but I'm sure not everybody does that. And so it's kind of a like, I would bring it with me to read and I would just be like, I'd read about 10, 15 pages and I need to put it down and like do something else because it's dense, it's flowery, there's a lot going on. And so it took me, you know, a couple weeks to read, which normally something like this wouldn't take me that long. And I mean, because 430 pages, that's a good size. It's kind of a chonker. Like for me, between 300 and 400 is the sweet spot. So anything over 400 is a little long for me, but I know a lot of people regularly read 400 or 500 page books. So, but because just the amount of work involved in reading something with this many moving parts and this many characters, and I'm constantly there's a page in the front that lists the guests at this house party, and I'm constantly having to like go back and reconsult. I'm like, which one is he? Oh, he's the doctor. Okay, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, overall good. I would say better than average. I think though I'm giving a little bit more of a star just for the craft of it, not necessarily for my personal enjoyment. So yeah, I picked up some more books at the library at my last visit. I've got Kate Morton's new one. I love Kate Morton, so hopefully this is good because I love Kate Morton up till like The Lake House, and then The Clockmaker's Daughter or whatever that was terrible. Hated it. So I don't know about Homecoming. We'll see. It's the next one I'm going to pick up because it's my library has some books that you can only check out for 2 weeks at a time, and then other ones you can keep for as long as you want. There's a point where you can't check out more books until you return them, but you can keep them without fines. You just can't check out more stuff. So you have to it's kind of like that thing on your bookshelf where you're like, you know, read it or unhaul it. Yeah, my library basically is read it or bring it back, but no more until you either read it or bring it back. Always the bring it back part, right? It's a library. So read it and bring it back, or don't read it and bring it back, but bring it back. Because library. Anyway, that's where I am for now. If you've read this book, let me know what you thought of it. I love Clue. It's one of my favorite movies. Obviously, this does not have that level of humor. So it's just got kind of that house party murder mystery with a storm element, I guess. But and I haven't read anything else by Stuart Turton either. Was this his first novel? I know the bio said he was some kind of writer, like journalist, I think, before writing, maybe a short story author. But anyway, if there's more by him you think I should read, or if there are other books like this that do this kind of thing, but maybe don't feel like heavy lifting, then let me know that as well. And until next time, take care.